Negative Space, the Final Frontier. This Star Trek bit isn't going to work for a bunch of reasons. I've not got the theme tune playing, first of all. Second, I can't imagine rewriting the classic Star Trek opening to be about design theory is going to produce results any better than Doug Walker's The Wall, so probably best just not to bother. Chris here again, starting off this video talking a bit about negative space in shot composition. For anyone not familiar with the term, negative space refers to the area in an image in between and around the main subject or subjects. And it can be used in many ways, but not many ways. I mean, we're not gods. First use, and this is pretty common in comic panels, providing an empty space that can be later filled with text. The second is the 180-degree rule, which is a cinematography thing that keeps spatial consistency for the viewer. It involves an imaginary axis and not positioning the camera outside of a 180-degree arc after you establish a position for that camera. It's hard to explain without a visual aid, and I'm now remembering that I'm absolutely working in a visual medium right now, so here, enjoy. Basically, if you draw a character on the left side of a panel, just try to keep them on that left side in future panels, because if you suddenly start drawing them on the right side, it can be jarring and disorientating for the audience. Which isn't to say it's always bad. When done intentionally, it can be very effective in heightening a sense of unease or disorientation, but we're getting off track here. I mentioned negative space because there are several panels in this page of Jack looking off screen to his left, so our right, stage left. Yeah. So the reason being that I wanted to communicate that he was basically having someone whispering in his ear, like feeding him lines, hence why, if you read the episode or page, his manner of speech shifts from casual to much more formal and eloquent. My concern with those two panels is that because the empty space that Jack is glancing at isn't in the panel, it's not super clear that he's glancing at an empty space. Now, I could have made the panel wider on the right so that you can see that empty space that Jack's glancing at, but due to the aforementioned 180-degree rule, I need to keep Jack to the right half of the panel, so if I put more space to the right, then I need to put even more space to his left as well to keep him, in that right half of the panel. And as you can probably gather from the size of these two panels, I didn't have a lot of space to work with. So adding any amount of space to the framing wasn't really an option. I could have made Jack smaller in the panel, but that would have resulted in having to draw him very small and very simplified, which I wanted to keep the camera tight on his face because this is supposed to be a page that increases tension for the Doctor and by extension the audience, and pulling the camera out for those moments I feel would have broken the flow of the page and potentially given the reader a sense of having breathing room, which I just didn't want them to have. I wanted them to feel almost like trapped in close quarters with this criminal who's acting erratically. Generally, when you have a character small in a panel, at least when I do it, it's because you want to reincorporate the background, or if you have a lot of negative space around a character that isn't filled with anything, it can be used as a way to communicate a message of the character feeling or being very, small and insignificant. Conversely, having a character small in panel allows the illustrator an excuse to draw the character in a much simpler way, which can provide a juxtaposition to the established art style, which can be used for comedic effect. So yeah, I didn't want to do any of those things, and I didn't have space on the page to keep Jack a reasonable size, so I was kinda stuck with this framing. If I absolutely had to redo this page and found a way to reshuffle things so I had an extra panel or two to work with, or if I were to split the page into two to allow for more room, what I think I would do is keep the framing on those two panels the same, but add a panel of the Doctor craning his neck around to look at where Jack keeps glancing at, and then have a reverse shot of that empty space. It'd reaffirm that Jack is looking at what appears to be nothing, and doing it in this way would also hopefully strengthen the audience's connection to the Doctor, because we're learning this information in the same way he is, and by seeing the same thing as him. Look, I didn't do that because the space behind and around Jack isn't completely unoccupied, but I'll talk more about that later when, we actually get to that page. That's about it for visuals. Okay, actually, just lastly on the subject of positioning characters, I think actually if you track Jack's eye line and the angle he's looking at the Doctor from his chair, at the start of the page to the end, the chair actually changes angle, it pivots to face the Doctor in between the panels, and then I think it pivots back. I really hope you didn't notice that without me pointing it out, because if you didn't notice it, then it allows me to make this point about priorities and the importance of the 180-degree rule. You didn't notice a chair swiveling around because everyone stays on their side of the panel, but I don't know. I don't want to presume that you didn't notice errors. This is a quick aside, but it always bugs me when people on film reviewers on YouTube, I guess specifically, try to trick me by going oh, look at this rubbish scene from this film. Actually, it's not even from this film because I made it. Or listen to this stock music that doesn't sound out of place in this film's terrible score. Actually, it is from this movie score, but you believe me. I didn't believe you. I thought it sounded too stylized to be stock music, and I correctly guessed before you said anything that you made this scene with your friends. Aside from that, no real beef with I Hate Everything or Ralph the Movie Maker, but I saw an opportunity for a tangent, and I need to be hitting 10 minutes with these things, apparently, so... Yeah, sorry, and on to taking a little bit of time to talk about the writing. Again, I like this page. I think it does a nice job of increasing tension. The guy who's a criminal is acting like he's hearing voices that are telling him what to say and do, which... I wouldn't want to be in that room, so... Although, to be fair, I can think of a lot of situations depicted in, poorly executed scenes of even poorer executed films and episodes, so I guess that's not the most accurate barometer of quality, but regardless, I think it does a good job of increasing the stakes for the other, more relatable character in the scene. And at its worst, I don't think it decreases the stakes, so worst case scenario, the atmosphere wasn't obliterated, and I helped provide a setup for a reveal a couple of pages down the line. Like I say, I like the writing with this page. The only potential problem I really have with it at the time of recording is if the art is confusing or unclear, it could take the audience out of the experience, which absolutely could kill the tension, but I think it's at the very least passable, and as I've said before, getting it out and seeing how it does was the best thing for me regarding this project in its current form, so... Not that I dislike this project, I hope you understand. I'm sure I probably come off as very down on myself and my work, and that probably doesn't inspire a lot of confidence because, I don't seem very confident, but I hope you will realise that there's just inherently more lessons learnt from mistakes and successes, and while there's stuff I like and that I'm proud of, at the time of recording this, I can't really say if any of this has been a success because I haven't had any kind of audience reaction to it yet. Also not... okay. I feel like if you haven't seen The Good Place, one of the characters, Chidi, writes an incredibly long, dry, boring philosophy book that's very unfocused and refuses to take a point of view, and at the middle point, after making an overly long argument, says, however, the exact opposite could also be true, and I feel a lot like that's what I'm doing, so here's some definitive statements to keep you going until next week. This comic aims to create intrigue in its opening, and while I feel it accomplishes that, I won't know for certain until it hits a wider audience. I also really like behind the scenes working process type videos on narrative and fiction, so I want to talk about my creative process and the stuff I considered when making pages, and hopefully people find relatability in my struggles. Also, I really like how I drew the Doctor in the 4th panel looking tense and worried. Don't know why, just liked it. Right, I think that will about do it for now. As always, if you want to see the comic that these pages are from, then check out Wanted, Jack and Die on Tapas and Webtoon, but I'll also put links in the description. I also have links to my Facebook, which will post uploads to the comic and these videos and anything else I might put up. I'll also have a link to my Patreon, where you can get a behind-the-scenes weekly backer blog that's even more behind the scenes than these videos, if you can imagine such a thing. You'll also get the scrolling comic episodes and these YouTube videos a week earlier than everyone else. Not everyone, I mean, you won't get them a week earlier than, like, the other people also patronizing me, but, like, most other people. There will be more people on the planet not getting this content early than there will be who are, so, you know, you'll still be in the minority. Also, all the music you've heard has been from Jerry Terry's album Together We Can the Internet, which I will also link in my description. Hope you've all had a good week, and I'll see you next Sunday.